Imagine this. A player joined a private code to play with his friends, but when entering the lobby, nobody was there. He wonders why they aren't joining, but then he sees it. Standing in front of him is a creature. The player doesn't recognize it, but before he could even react, his game crashed. What you just saw was a gorilla type ghost that was never supposed to exist, but it somehow got into your code. Well, this is exactly what happened on a channel called Zkript VR, where a player joined a code that would reveal some of the most disturbing footage I've ever seen in Gorilla Tag. And it all began with the first video. It starts off with the player spawning in Stump, and he walks over to the computer and types in the code Joy89. He walks out of Stump, but that's when he notices this. The textures seem to be missing, and if you go a bit back in the video, you can see that the button textures are also missing, which could just be a coincidence. But after the player goes over here, this happens. And if you didn't already see it, over at the treehouse, there's a green-like figure. We don't know what this is, but it might be what's causing the glitch textures. And the player then jumps on this tree, which will be important later in the video. And the second video might just give us the reason why it's happening. The player spawns this jump and nothing seems to be changed. He types in the same code that he typed in earlier and walks out Stump. But that's when he realizes that the siren is gone, which made him really confused. So he then tries to go ahead and do a route he did earlier, but the tree is gone. He then jumps down to investigate and finds a black hole in the ground, which is super odd. But then suddenly, the video cuts, leaving us with no further information about the strange glitch occurrence that we've been seeing throughout the video. But if you go back to the first video and go to the description of it, you can see that Zkript just wanted to play with his friends, but all these strange glitches occur. And now we also know that this takes place in March of 2022, meaning that this happened around the first house update in Gorilla Tag. But this next episode might even give us more hints towards why this is happening. The player starts in Stump and goes to the computer and types in the code as usual. But when walking out of the Stump, we can see that the siren is back and a bunch of textures are starting to glitch out, leaving the player super confused. And as curious as he is, he goes to check it out. But when walking over to the tree, this happens. His game crashed, but we don't know exactly why. Maybe it was the corrupted texture, or maybe even the green figure we saw earlier. But if we go on the video's description, we can see that this was recorded 2 days after the first video, which means that the second video was recorded the 19th March of 2022, meaning that he's been playing every single day with each day getting worse. But this next episode is gonna be the craziest one yet, so trust me, you're not prepared. Every single texture has corrupted now, but the player still decides to go over to the computer and enter in the code. And once he goes out forest, this happens. Now, if you didn't already see it, if I turn the brightness up on this clip, we get this, which looks like the green figure that we saw earlier. And we can also see that it has long arms and looks super scary, which is probably the reason why the player ran away. And if you go to the video's description, you can see that Zkript says, "I think I know what is causing this, but I'm not sure." And this is recorded 3 days later from the previous video. But the 5th episode might reveal the truth behind why this is happening. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out. Everything seems to be the same as the last episode. He types in the code and goes out a Stump. But that's when you can see every single object floating around, which is odd, because we've only seen missing textures and disappearing objects so far. But it's only gonna get weirder from now. The player walks up to this tree and tries to get over to that platform. And once he finally makes it, this happens. But then the video cuts, but this still doesn't give us the reason why everything has been happening, and there isn't any more videos on this channel. So how can we figure out the truth behind this corrupted version? And if we tie the story together, you can see that the player puts in the same code every time he joins the game, and each time he puts it in, the game starts to corrupt even more. But if I go on to the last video and turn on subtitles, you can see that somewhere in the video there's a line of random letters, and if I take these letters and put them into a YouTube link, it brings us to the last actual video, which is gonna explain everything and why it's been happening. He spawns in Stump, and you can see that some things are greener and more vibrant than they were before. He joins the code, but when he looks at a Stump, this happens. The whole forest is gone, and there's an eye instead. So the player goes into city, but it has turned into a black void, which is similar to what we saw in forest. And the same thing happens in canyons. And when he goes to caves, the map is still there. And as any other Gorilla Tag player would do, they go to mine. But that's when this happens. He tries to run out of case as fast as he can, but he starts glitching out throughout the way. But then eventually, he finally made it to Stump and runs over to the computer and types in the code JOY89. He then presses enter and his game starts to glitch out. The screen slowly fades back in and says this.
Everything is normal now. I can finally play with my friends.
Wait, this is going a bit too fast. How did this even happen in the first place? What could have caused this game to go back to normal? Well, if you look back in the video, we can see that he put in the code JOY89 but with a 0, which he's been doing throughout the entire series. But at the end, he put it in with an O instead of a 0. So is the code the entire reason why all of this stuff has been happening? Well, we don't really have an answer to that. But next time you go onto Gorilla Tag to play with your friends, always make sure you put the right code in. Because who knows? Maybe you did a tiny little spelling mistake.